Kia ora everybody, welcome along to the League and Ordish podcast. I've written down some notes to start this out. Round 19 saw the Doggies get up over the Rabbits, the Storm get 50, the Shark lost Sean Johnson, and the Warriors lost to the Raiders, and also lost RTS. And the Bunker, well, it simply lost the plot. Let me not talk any further, though. Let me introduce you to who else is on the show here. Starting with you, Tony Kemp. Enjoy the weekend's league, did you, Kempy?
I didn't enjoy the first up game. I didn't see that coming. I didn't think the Bulldogs would get that win over the Rabbits. But, that's this competition, isn't it? The Broncos wouldn't be too happy about that. But I don't think Wayne Bennett's too happy either, rolling to the finals with his Rabbits and having lost to the guys that are at the bottom of the table. So apart from that game, I think everything else was pretty predictable.
Yeah.
I thought the Warriors were great again. They hung in there. I like the toughness about them this year. I just really hope Nathan Brown can carry that on. Yeah,
toughness, man. I felt like we had quite a few calls go our way. Well, it looked like we were, it's starting to feel like we were evening out. Almost like there was some suggestions on Twitter that, this is all the makeup calls that didn't go our way during the season. Lavina, how are you? Are you well? Did you enjoy your league round?
I don't know if Ricky Stewart feels the same way as you. I think he was a bit peeved, wasn't he? And he chucked the bottle out and said, I'm not happy with some of these calls. But the interesting thing with the Warriors at the weekend, and Jack Whiten found some bench time for those constant infringements. When the Warriors played against Parramatta and they lost to Vanga, they allowed Parramatta to score a couple of tries because they were down a player. You felt as though it worked completely the opposite against the Raiders. The Raiders lose a player and are so pissed off with it, they lift their game and play a form of intensity that the Warriors couldn't keep up. And that was the section that lost it for them. I was happy with the way they played as well. I would have loved them to have beaten the Raiders. That would have been a great way for them to say goodbye to their captain, as he won't be playing another game. But yeah, I enjoyed the footy, and along with Cappy, I was really surprised by the Doggies, but they did that last year. Do you remember? They beat about 6 to 8 teams in the
They had a good run home, that's
ending
right.
rounds. They were never going to make it to the top 8, but they destroy the hearts of many teams that are getting there along the way. That's how it rolls.
That's one of the most annoying parts of being a fan of a sports team, when your team's never in the hunt and they just go and start destroying. I mean, it does give you something to smile at when you start knocking off some of the top of the tables. You're like, yeah.
Look, I think they catch teams out because they sit at the wrong end of the table and they take them a little bit too lightly. So it does happen all the time at the end of the year. When you've got nothing to lose, you're a bit freer too, and you want to try things. Look, that game on the weekend, I don't think the Warriors have ever had a 5-1 penalty count in their favour. The Jazz Tavaga blow up about 14 versus 13 in the media, basically saying the refs are cheat. It's definitely helped, because I thought the start of the game, the Warriors were outstanding. They played some really tough football early on, and if it wasn't for a couple of intercept passes, that one from Roger, that one from Jazz, Canberra would have been right behind it, and they should have locked it up in the first half. When Jack Whiten went off, they had a real good opportunity to go in there instead of going down 16-14 into that halftime break. So disappointing from their perspective. It's really sad to see Roger go down. It would have been really nice for him to play the final game of the season. He sent a tweet out, I think, saying, goodbye to the 2020 season. Can't wait to see the back end of it. I know his kids would be really happy to see him come home, as will everyone else. But you've got to be pretty happy. I think the way that Todd Payton summed it up, saying, I'm really proud of these blokes and I owe them a lot. He basically saying, if I took the opportunity. You turn a bucket of shit around in the first game that I had, and have really played really well and got me a contract up at the North Queensland Cowboys, and he'll forever be indebted to the club. Another one that got away.
He will. He's almost like the boys. They almost need a share of that amount of money that he's making now, because they have proven that he is all that and more, and they all rallied around what he wanted to do, and they just looked tough from here on out. And I was thinking, though, the reason why we lose to the Raiders and we're still looking tough is it's just a different beast when you're taking on those top sides, right? And you've mentioned this earlier, Kempe. Earlier on in many podcasts, that there's that top 4, top 5, top 6 side that you just have to be onwards. And I sort of think the best comparison for me to be able to think this through is, it's kind of like when you're at your in-laws' place and you've just got to be on your best behaviour the whole time, rather than being, say, at your own parents' house, where you can afford to use the odd swear word, or you can slip up a little and everyone's way more forgiving. Whereas when you're playing against the likes of the Raiders or the Knights or not the Broncos, or the Roosters, the Panthers, all those top sides, the Storm, you've just got to be acting every single moment like you're at your in-laws' house and your discipline's completely right, because you could lose a lot from a simple slip-up. Roger going out, though, he leaves having the most yards gained, run ball yards in the entire NRL. It would have been nice to see him. It would have been nice to see him get a few more this weekend. But man, what a season and what a load of sacrifice he made this season.
Yeah, look, and Bruce putting that to bed about him going to the All Blacks. Look, it can't be a reality for the economics of it. He's going to slice up the 50% of his contract. It just doesn't make sense going into the back end of his career at 28, 29. I can't see anyone in the All Blacks saying that you're going to walk straight into that side, and let alone take a 50% cut to do it. So that's good to see that he'll be around next year. I just think it was a perfect storm, really, for Todd Payten. Come in, he didn't have anything to lose. He got a team that went into isolation, and they were only going to get better, and they've shown that. But I don't think, we spoke about it at the beginning of the year. There's a couple of weak areas in the Warriors team. And just to touch on that, always been on your best behaviour at your grandmother's, at your in-laws.
Or grandmothers, in-laws, either or.
Either or. I said when they signed Nathan Brown, with that committee they put together, Simon, Rob Crute, I think it was Mark Robinson and Cameron George. You could imagine Bellamy and them sitting there looking at that group going, Jesus, this is a exciting group to be doing a coaching interview in front of. But I'll tell you what, you add Phil Gould to that mix. And I think you've seen in the last week, the bloke, when he basically says, come to New Zealand, I'm going to get you more money and you come over and play for us, that he's got a bit of power. And I just want to put that into perspective. Whanua Blake deciding to come to the Warriors is a massive move.
Right.
I mean, it's a massive move. But for me, he's not $1 million player, but there's something there that says that Phil Gould's got a bit of influence, because he would have been the one that made that phone call to get that deal across the line if it is done.
Is it a good deal? And how does everyone feel about? I mean, Whanua Blake is phenomenal.
He's a rat bag. Whanua Blake is a rat bag, and I know he can play rugby league. And I'm not just going on the way he talks to referees. I mean, that's just a lack of respect from him to another. But throughout his playing career, he's been referred to as a rat bag. He's probably not the most popular team member with the clubs that he's come from. Wouldn't be my first choice for the Warriors if I had that amount of money and I could buy $1 million player. I don't think I would be buying Whanua Blake. I mean, 1 minute we're talking about the purchase of Whanua Blake. The minute before that, we're talking about Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, who gives up his life and his career for the sport that he absolutely loves. He's not involved in a massive big drinking culture. He shows respect to everyone he plays with and plays against and whoever's refereeing the game. He's sacrificed so much. He wants to be with his 3-year-old and his 1-year-old, but he can't. But he's not bitter about it. He doesn't desert his team to come back to be with his family. That's a priority for him. He's not going to go play for the All Blacks because he loves the game of rugby league. They're the players that you want in your club. Am I excited about the purchase of Whanua Blake? Not at the moment. No, I'm not. I don't think culturally that would be the best player. I don't know if Toddy Payten would pick Whanua Blake, to be fair. So in terms of excitement, it doesn't really rock my boat at the moment, no. We'll wait and see how many yards he makes next year and how many punches he throws and how many people he abuses on the pitch, eh?
Yeah, look, I think that's still going to be there. I think the interesting one around the signing is that Adam Blair's probably gone.
Yes.
That 600K, probably there's a couple of 100K for a job at the Warriors somewhere that'll help out in the salary cap. So that's put the icing on the cake with that Adam Blair stuff. He won't be playing in a Warriors jersey next year. I think with rugby league, and I've played with enough of them and alongside enough of them, you always have the rat bags. You know what I mean? The Dennis Rodmans or the Chicago Bulls type players that are, extravagant and flamboyant and say what's on their mind. And the thing with Whanua Blake, if he couldn't back that up, he'd be in I think what Lavina's right, he'd be in a lot of shit. You know what I mean? He'd be out of the club. And I think the question for me is if he's in the top echelon of front rows in the game, why has Des Hasler let him go?
Yeah, Desi.
You know what I mean? So why? That's the question. Why has Des Hasler let him go? But it comes back to that culture shift that Mark Robinson's trying to create at the Warriors. Is that the type of person you want to come into your team? Because the The signing, I think, is a good signing because they need a middle guy. Even though they've paid overs for him, I think they paid fucking way too much for him. That's common sense. But if you're building something for the future, is that the type of culture that you're trying to build? Because I can see.
Can I just say though that he doesn't necessarily bring the culture with him, right? Like the culture's already there. Does he fit into your culture and how we work it?
That's always been the question. You know, like the DNA. What is it? You're sort of he's coming into a pretty fragile fabric at the moment. You know, it can go either way. They can either build something special, or he can be a bad apple in a good basket type thing. So, I can see next year there's going to be a bit of contention around him. I think coming to New Zealand's not a bad thing, given the fact that he's a Pacific boy and he'll buy into the culture over here. His wife has some family over here apparently, surely the decision and around him wasn't just put on the basis he's on the market, we need to sign him.
No.
You know?
And there's always, it's the same with, I remember in radio learning this lesson that a person's talent to ego ratio, once that gets out of whack, that's when you see things like Des Hasler letting him go. So when his talent is suddenly outweighed by the fact that his ego is, and he is what he is, then they go, you know what, we could actually do better without you. And then they let that person go. We're obviously about to sign someone whose ego is bigger than their talent right now in the eyes of Des Hasler and the Manly Sea Eagles. And that worries me. But then again, you know how we're continually paying overs and finding ways of getting talented footballers over New Zealand. If it means that, you know, we're going to have somebody whose talent isn't as high as his ego is right now, then hopefully we can even it out and we can get the best out of Fanua Blake.
Tom Trbojevic is on 50 grand more. You know what I mean? Wow. He goes and asks Desi for a release, and what does Desi say?
Hell no.
I'm going to buy you and your brother.
That's the question. Why has Desi said no, mate? Go.
Yeah.
You can go. You know what I mean? If he's earning $850 at Manly, why are you saying to obviously he's a marquee forward of the pack because it's not their hooker and it ain't their Jake Trbojevic might be on 800, but he's a middle player. You know, why are you letting the marquee? You're talking the three marquee players in your team.
Unless they have a really other talented middler coming up through the ranks.
They have got a couple of big ones. They have got a couple of big boys there. So
yeah, that could also be a reason.
Interesting. It's an interesting signing, given the fact that I think they need a hooker before they need a front row.
Amen.
Well, I may have that hooker for you. You guys are aware of the graphics that I put up on screen right now. NRL.com, I think it was Fox NRL, released a off-the-contract 13. These are the free agents, people who will be hitting the free agent markets at the end of this season. And I actually put this graphic up, Kemp, and I said it to you as well, Lavina, because there's two Warriors on there. And what worries me about having two Warriors on the off-contract 13, these are the best of the best, the players that they've looked through all the teams and said, well, you know, if we could make a team up of all these players who are coming off contract, this is who we'd pick. Are we getting rid of two players or losing two players too early on?
Definitely one.
Okay.
Azariah should not be going anywhere. I don't know why he is being pushed on the outer. Lachlan Burr, you know, the writing's on the wall when you're signing someone the calibre of Fanua Blake. I guess there's a lack of room for that player, and they haven't got a second grade competition. They've got to go over to Redcliffe, obviously, to play that. But it's a team that you don't want to be named. And, you know, when you go to those tournaments and get the tournament team, this is the team you don't want to be named in.
That's a loss. That would be a loss. Papali'i is a great player. I like his attitude, and that would be a great loss. And there's a few others off contract, hey. Gerard Beale, I think he's already indicated that he wants to stay, doesn't he, with the Warriors at age 30?
I like Gerard Beale. I feel like when he was first in the team and he had his confidence at an all-time high, he was captain everything, captain universal. Put him anywhere, play any position, and he'd do so damn well. It's almost like he's lost that role. And who did we recently sign? That can play.
You and
Hiku.
Hiku's like taken over that role of being able to be everywhere.
Nathaniel Roach is another one through injury concerns. I mean, he's just spent so much time on the sideline, that poor kid. He's such a talented player, but just can't seem to pull a trick when it comes to injuries. And I think Patrick Herbert is another one who'll come to the end of the contract. Yeah, I think his contract is up at the end of the year as well.
I think Herbert's unlucky.
Me too.
You know, he's had a decent season. I feel really sorry for Nathaniel. You know, he had big raps on him. He was meant to come in and take over from Isaac, and his body just doesn't like what's going on, and unfortunately can't stay on the football field. I think Danny Levi in the side is probably someone that you.
Danny Levi.
Yeah, I think you look at Danny Levi. He's got enough experience to come in. Probably get him for cheap. I just want to go through this a little bit. If you look at the top 5 spine that will play in the finals this year, the Panthers have got Cleary, Kurosawa, Luai, who have taken them to the minor premiership a week out. The Storm have got Peppernows and Munston Smith and Smith on the bench, and then the best up and coming hooker at the Tigers. Friend, Carey and Tedesco, say no more. The Eels have been out there with Cuthbertson, Moses and Brown. And of course the Raiders got C&K, Williams, the English halfback, Heighton and Hodgson hasn't even played with a hooker. You know what I mean? And they're the top 5. They're the benchmark to make the top 5. We've got Roger, Nikorima, Chance and Carl Lawton. But not only have we got Carl Lawton, we've got Wade Egan come off the bench. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just think if you really want to have a shot next year and you have bought those players, you're going to have to strengthen the 9 position.
So we like Danny Levi. We're not happy to see Isaiah Papali'i go.
And also, Aish sent me a quick text. God bless him. We wish he was on the show today. He's a busy boy. We know he's
taken a knee today.
Busy. But he mentioned Sirinen as well. It might be another one. And I thought, if I could pick a couple from that list, I'd pick those 2. But I want Cameron Smith. Let's buy Cameron Smith for a year.
Yeah, he goes
not
good.
Brandon Smith. Not Brandon yet, Tony. Not Brandon. Cameron.
Well,
1 year.
I would, if you're throwing 850 grand around, I would have thrown it at Brandon Smith. You know what I mean? I've heard from one of their recruitment managers who's no longer at the club that they offered Brandon Smith 300 grand. Like, that's an insult. He's the current Kiwi hooker.
He's worth.
Who
900.
offered him that?
The Warriors offered him that. When he was off contract. That's what they offered, 350 grand. Now, you're talking a totally different
That's 4 million. That's 4 million on Waiheke.
You know what? But
$4.
you're talking a whole different mindset if there's an 8 in it.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why Isaiah and a number of these players that are on here have no contract is because of the money that they've been. This is a whole nother conversation. Is the money that they're already on, and that they're not going to get. Other than Benji, who's probably played for unders this year. Kieran Foran's meant to be on 800 grand a year. So you got Isaiah that's obviously on a progressive contract that's up for more if they sign him.
Yeah.
And now we're talking salary cap issues. And again, we go right back to where we started this conversation with Whanua Blake. What is a contract? So
what is it worth?
It's a target, right? Like, if you look through some of the players, because there's a couple more that I wanted to mention as well before we moved on. Patrick Herbert, we've already talked about. Adam Kerrigan, he's coming off contract as well. He looked like he was developing into something, and then all of a sudden the growth has stopped. Jackson Fry, the big fella who obviously got injured at the start of the season, right in the pre-season game, did his knee, and he's had injury problems as well. That's his second knee, but they had huge raps on him. Big, bodied up the middle. So there's players that we seem to get, like Isaiah Papali'i, I think is a perfect one, and Patrick Herbert, where these players were, when they came onto the field, when they first started, they were dominant. They were real excitement machines, and then they've just dropped off. They haven't, and it's become, and if it is what you're talking about, Kempy, where they've been put on big contracts, it's almost a target, right? They look over their books, they go, all right, contract here. How much has Isaiah played? What does he do to the team now? Okay, you're gone. Like, it's that feeling that they just look through the list and go, okay, that's a big red mark if you're making big money.
Look, it puts the clubs under a shitload of pressure when they're looking at players and they see the year that they have, and the coaches go, right, we're going to move our salary cap around. Let's move these players on and bring some new players in. And the contracts that you got are not worth anything that you're written on. I just think, for the Warriors' perspective, they've had so much historical evidence of players that have bounced back once that they've let them go. Oh. Let's talk about one of those players. He's the front rower for Sydney City. He is arguably the best front rower in the competition in Swat, Tukiaho. No, the other one. Now, the Warriors told him he was no good. You know, you watch that kid play. He plays the first half at 100 miles an hour. He's carrying every set of six, making the tackles in the middle and causing all sorts of damage for the players that come behind him. And I reckon if you look at that, you look at Isaiah Papali'i, he should be a middle bloke. He should be the next bloke coming through, and use him to build on the back of what they did, with what they missed out with Swire.
He had a stellar high school career. He looked great in his early on parts. He's fit. He's fast. He's strong.
He's strong,
tough.
mate. You see him. He bends people in defence.
Yeah, mentally, he something's stopping him from being that same player.
He wants to be an edge player, mate. He's not an edge player. You know what I mean? Someone needs to get into his head. He isn't an edge player. He's too short. All right, that's the first thing. The edge players are getting taller and bigger. Not taller and skinnier. Isaiah is not an edge player. They got to move him into the same. He is the same mould as Swire.
Yeah,
and he's as fit as Swire. You know, and he could develop, and he's a young kid into a decent middle player. Now I can see him kicking on. If Sydney City will be looking at this kid, I guarantee you, going, mate, can we afford him?
Yeah,
because we will turn him into that. We'll turn him into that backup for Jared Warrior-Hargreaves.
And if you're Isaiah, you sit there and go, okay, so the Warriors have allowed me to test the free agents market now, test my waters, and the Roosters come to you and offer you less, but you know you're about to go to a team that's constantly in the top four. You'd take it, right? You'd be like, hell yes, and you'd improve, and you'd go into their regime, and you'd buy into it, and you'd be going, and we stay here in Auckland and all around New Zealand and go, damn it, we lost another one.
So I was in a house in Lavina. So I was in a house in Sydney. He didn't have a contract. The Warriors had basically shifted him on. He went to Sydney. He was staying with Carmen and Spencer in the house, and Joseph Manu was in there with Latrell Mitchell and his brother. And Swire settled up there and just got his shit together. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, he went from a kid that couldn't pay for a meal. He if you're saying that Whanua Blake is worth $850, mate, this guy's worth $1 million.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah, I agree.
Seriously.
Yeah, I think development programs and stuff like that clubs have. It was interesting you mentioned Adam Kieran. I was there when he debuted when the Warriors lost Johnson. And he was at the match, had a chat with him after the game. His partner was there and his baby, and he had a great debut. I think it was against the Doggies on a beautiful Sunday afternoon. And in the preseason, it was between him and Harris Tavita. You know, we're not sure who we're going to play.
That's right. It was a real competition.
They went with Adam Kieran first, and he played 3 really good games, and then the Warriors forwards, as the competition went on, started playing like crap, like honestly bludging. No one would get over 100 yards, missing tackles. The only thing they could do was pop an offload from Adam Blair, and then someone dropped it. So the pack was performing really bad, and Stephen Kearney dropped that kid, Adam Kieran, who had a beautiful left foot kick, has a gorgeous left foot grubber kick. It's beautiful to watch. And I knew that would be the end of him. I thought that'll probably be the end of him, rather than let's give Harris Tavita a go. And Harris Tavita's probably the future of the club. But this kid, Adam Kieran, still has a lot to offer. There has to be a program where we can keep him within the realms of what we're doing and say, you'll get another chance, buddy, because you're a good footballer. You don't miss tackles. You're a very good defender for a half. You're a great goal kicker. You can slot it over. And you've got a good kicking game. But it was almost as like, we'll try you. The pack shit, you're gone. You're no good anymore because you're a little halfback. We'll bring in Harris Tavita, good to go. Adam Kieran's off contract now, and he'll go somewhere else and might develop into a good young footballer. Coaches like Hasler, maybe Stewart, definitely when we're looking at Roosters and the Eels, those coaches see a player like him and go, in 2 years' time, you'll offer so much to my club. In 2 years' time, rather than you're on the bench, you're out of the club, good luck, see you next time, buddy.
I think it's even ruder too, Lavina, that they throw him in the centres in last week's game. Like, it's just, that's not his shit. Like, that's terrible. No. That's a shit thing to do.
Never played in the centres. Yeah, he played in the centres in Australia for a while, but definitely not.
But
not
you know what he was, we brought him into the team. You're so right. There is, once, it's almost like you use goods screwed up and thrown out, and we're about to throw. If we throw out someone like Isaiah Papali'i,
it makes it so difficult without a reserve grade competition as well for players just to keep within that match fitness. Yeah,
that's the elephant in the room, is that there is no development program here in New Zealand to I guess promote that type of development into these players. The Warriors for years have never thrown their players back in the Fox. They do it sporadically. And the Fox is the only Auckland senior competition that we've got. They try to put the Vulcans into this second grade competition where Richie Blackmore lost the grand final. Remember that? So when you're talking about development, but it isn't just about that development. You know, it's a real cutthroat system here in New Zealand for the likes of Isaiah, for the likes of Swire when he went to Sydney to see if he could make it. Like Sean Kenny-Dowell when he went over to Sydney to crack it.
Yeah.
There was such a cutthroat time for them that the Warriors say, well, we can't see it. We can't see it. We don't have the time to develop you. You go away and all of a sudden you look and you go, man, you guys had that bloke. You guys had that. You guys had that guy.
I feel like Papali'i is the next person that we say that about. If he gets taken up, if someone rips him out and we lose him, he's going to be the guy that we go, and we'll look back at this year and we go, well, we bought Fanua Blake and we paid how much for? And we had a local kid that we could have transformed into being something so dominant, up the middle.
I think it. Well, I know how they think. You know, they're governed on winning competitions. So you get a coach and a CEO. All they want to do is they think about now. You know, we need them now. We need to get the results on the board. We're going to be judged on it, and they go straight for the top echelon. Isaiah Papali should not be headed out of New Zealand. That kid can play.
He's great.
He needs development. He needs people to believe in him, and he needs to be playing footy. You know what I mean?
You owe me a drink and I owe you a drink. I called Adam Kieran, and you've gone with Papali'i over Papali. You've gone for the Papali over Papali'i.
Papali.
All right, let's move through because I wanted to just say that one of the most amazing moments for me during the NRL weekend was the fact that we not only were the Melbourne Storm clicking up 50, but they were also looking human. And I can't think of a time where I've ever thought, hey, there's two robots who have actually become human in my eyes in one moment. And that was when Cameron Smith scored the try that obviously took him past Bellamy in the all-time try scorers list. Gave him the bird. I thought this is the most enjoyable moment for me.
I loved it.
Yeah, I thought it was so good. And I hope there would be no backlash for seeing a Bellamy middle finger.
He's copping it apparently.
Really?
Backlash. He's copping it. Yeah, he was surprised he was caught on camera. It was obviously that whole personal thing. You've scored more tries than me coaching, like laugh, laugh, joke, joke. But he was caught on camera, and it has been, apparently it's being discussed at the moment. The NRL committee, prior to them sacking 25% of their workforce, they might talk about a coach giving one of his star players the bird in a term of endearment, I would say.
It just brought home the fact that we forget that these incredible teams and incredible things like a Bellamy as a coach and Smith as a hooker and a captain and a player. It was just incredible. It was one of those moments where I thought, yeah, they're just like us. I am fully pulling the bird at someone out the box if they pass my try scoring tally, which sits at 0.
He's superhuman though, isn't he? At 37 years of age. I say it over and over again. It's a young man's game. It's a young men's game. Rugby league is so fast, so quick. And he just continues to amaze me week in and week out. And I don't just have a lot of respect for him because he's a great family man and a lovely guy to interview. And as a person, I like him, right? But to watch him at rugby league, I just think, how do you make that many tackles over and over again and not get injured for the size that you are? And how do you demand so much respect from your players because they're all playing 100% for you because you're their leader and you're the captain and you lead from the front. Every week I go, I think it'll be a sad day in rugby league when he decides to hang his boots up, which may not be for another year. I really have a lot of respect for Cameron.
Look, I think the rule changes have helped Cameron out this year, you know, with the speeding up of the ruck and the six again call, I think have helped him because he's so smart. Like you watch him, I was sitting down watching a game a couple of weeks, you know, with a neighbour. He just come over and he's one of those real passionate supporters. I'd never seen him watch a game of football before. It's quite hilarious, you know, like screaming at the TV. I'm thinking, fuck, where am I, man? I'm watching the NFL Grand Final here, something like that. You know, just the run of the
Super Bowl, thanks.
And he's going, oh, you know, he's talking about Melbourne. I said, oh, look, I'm just going to take you through this next set of sixes. Here's what Cameron's going to do. He'll get watch how quickly he gets the dummy half. Look, he's sending that bloke over there. Can you see him? He's pointing to that bloke there. He's telling him where to go. Watch, he'll pick it up here and get off his left foot and kick it down. You know, we could tell what he was doing. And I think what's happened is that the change of the rules, especially this year, has brought no one's talking about Melbourne.
Yeah,
they're sitting second. You know what I mean? And Cameron Smith has had a massive part to play in that. And I'll tell you what, they're the ones to beat under this new rule because they're going to get to them. We're talking about injuries and a really smart game plan. Storm are going to be there. You know, they're going to be there. Basically, because Smith is sitting there, the bloke who touches the ball the most in a game. Like, he won't
Yeah.
play this week. I guarantee you
No,
Bellamy
they'll
will rest him.
They'll rest him.
He'll want him just play the big games for me. Let's get 2 games out, mate. We're in another final. You know what I mean?
Park the truck. We've been here before.
That's right.
So many times. So many times. We know what to do from here. We rest you.
Everyone will be rested. There'll be so many players rested this week because so many of the games don't really take account onto what's happening with that top eight.
Isn't it really interesting? Like, I just want to talk about those injuries. You know, the injury toll this year has been phenomenal. You know, if they do not come out in the off season, the football this brain trust football committee that they have over, and without a Kiwi on it, that come out and don't change the defensive rules. You know what I mean? Like, especially the third man in. Okay, we lost Fafita, mate. So imagine losing him to a career-ending injury. You know, these third tackles, these wrestles, the dropping behind the legs, the way that players are moving in and around the play the ball so that they don't get hit like Scud missiles from side to side.
Yeah.
It's just ruining the game, you know. And going into the final series, you know, the injuries ain't going to stop. They're going to play a big part.
I've taken some time to think about this, Kempy, because we gave you the task of coming up with a ruling that would stop this kind of injury happening, and I didn't like what you brought back. So I've come up with my own, and it's a better ruling.
You don't like no third man in?
Third man.
That's how you change it.
It just becomes it just becomes the opposite of when you rip the ball out because there was one person in there and you've got two people standing close and referees get it wrong and was there a hand on him? It just becomes really confusing. Here's what it is. They blow up the tackle situation a lot quicker and stop it from going to the ground. So they say, Harold, the referee's role in this is to, and if it means that they do it a little too early and an offload is missed, but we don't have injuries as much, I reckon that would be a good way of fixing it.
Yeah, I agree.
And
do something.
Put the onus on the referees, not on the bunker. Don't have a separate bunker to say, look for the third man.
Yeah.
Look for the third man coming
They should
in.
call it the
You've
clunker.
got a man or woman out there, you're paying a shitload of money with a whistle
The
to referee a
clunker.
game. Referee the game, you know? Call
Sorry.
the tackle, held. If someone comes in and makes another tackle, you know, 10 grand fine. That's my favourite one.
Well, I
10
turned
grand fine on the spot.
I turned Tally off the other night when Mitch Orbison got that try. They gave it a try. I was like, what the fuck did they get that try for?
Can I just say, Lavina,
anyone
you
could
missed
see
it.
that he lost it.
You missed this, Lavina, but not only did Kempy come up with the greatest dad joke of all time, he called the blunker, they should call it the clunker, but it was his happy little face when he smiled when he knew he'd hit the jackpot. He was just like, they should call it, and he said it twice. He's like, the clunker.
Clunker.
Man, it's had a shit
Get
run.
rid of
hasn't
it. If I was Graham
waste
Annesley,
of money.
I'd be working overtime behind the scenes to push that thing out.
But he keeps giving away clues that they're going to improve it in the next season.
Oh,
but they don't. He doesn't say how. They're just like, well, you know, that's going to change.
They want to get rid
only
of
time-
25% of their workers, mate. Just get rid of that.
There we
Keep
go.
10
The only
people.
time they'll improve it is when the Roosters go all hoo-ha over it, and that's the truth. Whenever the Roosters complain, Annesley's like, oh, the Roosters are upset. It's not working. Doesn't give a shit about the Warriors having 2 points taken off them against Parramatta or, you know, back in round 9 when they were disallowed, you know, had four penalties that they shouldn't have been given away at all, and the refs came out after the game and went, we made a mistake 4 times in a row in the first half. Doesn't care about that. Don't worry, it's the Roosters, mate. If the Roosters complain, things change.
What should they change the name to, Tony?
The clunker.
Yeah,
The
go the
clunker.
You know, just talking about that, changing the referees' minds and that. You know, Ricky's the best at it. You know, with getting under the skin of the referees, and he comes straight out and blew up, knowing that the finals are coming up about the Warriors, getting away with all that sort of stuff, throwing that bottle out the window, and Bellamy's doing the finger and all that. These guys they're way too smart for Annesley. That's what's going on. They should. I reckon. Just if you're going to do something, Lavina said it the other week. Just fine them. Don't even say anything. Just come in and say, no, that's you know, bringing the game into disrepute. Fine, and they'll just stop, mate.
Yeah.
You know, I read an article this week. Ricky's first year referee abuse, $125,000.
$25,000. Do you know what? I read the same article because you and I do our research, and I read in the grand final last year when obviously there was that, you know, extra penalty given out and players coming on, and he went all, you know, complaining about it. He took the referee out for lunch after that game. How manipulative is that?
Of course,
So he took the referee out for lunch.
He's from Canberra. How do you think all those blokes get into those seats down there in Canberra? He's got a bit of Trumpism about him. Don't worry about that.
All right. So did you say everything you wanted to? Because I'm looking through the top 8. Now I know Kempy has been grinding out the numbers. I saw him on his calculator before. He was looking through the table, what games left to play, and then who matches up with whom after this week's round. He's done all the maths for us, Lavina. So Kempy, did you want to? He's actually got a winner already sorted.
Well, look, the Panthers for me, I reckon Ivan stumbled across the 2002 Warriors side. It's so similar,
Went to that grand final.
Lawai at 5'8", Kakao at centre, on the edge with young centres, and young wingers, and just tough front rowers like Jerry Suso. I think Ivan's just reliving 2002 again, so he knows how to get there. But whether or not they can finish off the Storm or the Roosters is the big question. And I think they're the three that are going to be fighting it out for them 2 spots. Unfortunately for Lavina, I think the Eels are going to find themselves in a bad position because they're going to come up.
I've always loved you up until now.
Yeah, look, I think they probably lose the first round. The Eels, if they finish in 4th, I think
Panthers against Panthers.
Yeah, I think they lose that, but then they come against probably the Raiders the next week. And I just don't see any. I'd love my Knights to be there in the grand final, even though they played so well on the weekend, Lavina, and I can't see them getting through those other 2. And I think the Storm and the Roosters are the 2 to watch. I think the Panthers, Ivan knows how to get them there, but whether they can win it, I don't know.
Well, Kempy, it's funny you should say that.
You think the Raiders will
out of the
that top
5,
spot?
like historically, no one's won it out of the top 4. I think the Raiders, having been there last year, and the way they can grind a game out, if they get into a grind with someone, they'll hang in there and possibly, cause an upset. A la the Warriors did from the 8th position to get to the grand final, and I think, what was that, 2011? So, it's a not having Hodgson there at dummy half, I don't think helps them, but they do know how to get into a grind. So, any smoky out of the top 4 is Raiders, but I think the top 3 are the 3 teams that they're going to have to knock off, which is the Roosters, Penrith, and Storm. I think the Storm are sleeping. I think they're just sleeping there and having a week off.
How is sitting in second place have they sat there so quietly too? Just so you're aware, too, people, as I do my research as well, back in 2002 that Ivan Cleary is reliving, Nickelback, How You Remind Me was the number 1 song of that year. So
I love that.
It's
I love that
like
about you.
Yeah.
We need more music, mate.
You're
a great DJ.
Another Warrior that we lost. Clockstead. No.
No. Yeah. How you remind me. Well, it goes back to time. So, who have you got as your overall winner then? Now that we kind of got a fair idea as how the top.
I've thought right from the beginning that the team with the best hooker wins the comp this year. Right from the rule change, I went.
Melbourne's got 2 of them.
Yeah, I think Melbourne have got the better hook, and given the injuries and the way that they have played out this year, I think we're going to see some shift through the finals and losing some big name players. I don't think Cameron Smith's going to be one of them, mate. He's just too smart. He's going to be there or thereabouts. So I've said right from the start that the hookers are going to make a big difference. And if I was going to have a bet on who would win the comp this year, I'd take the Storm.
Oh, hold the phone, everybody. Kempy's going after the Storm.
5 from 6 at the moment. Us Ace. 5 from 6 I am.
On the horses or on the horses?
Oh,
I keep missing them.
I'm rich.
Good one on the weekend too. $6.
I've got to get on some of them. You send them through. You're a good man. You do feed the back. So
yeah, I'm on them.
You're on them. Lavina.
Top 4 hasn't surprised me so much. Eels are playing like crap. God, what's happening there? Even though they won at the weekend, they're just not. Their attack is so predictable. This is what I don't like about the Eels at the moment. It's just like Moses kick, see what happens. And we know how much Tony loves a try from a kick. It's one of his favourite things. So they haven't been exciting me. The Roosters always play well. The Storm are methodical. Like they're just methodical, like a robot, like a machine. But my heart this year and my hopes are definitely with the old chocolate soldiers. I do like the Penrith Panthers, and what I like about them most is that Ivan Cleary is a great guy and a great coach, and I was sad to see him leave the Warriors after that 4-year contract had ended, because I was like, could be a coach for life. You could become a super coach at the Warriors and you've got everything in the right place, but you couldn't nab that premiership. So it wasn't working out, and he went on his merry way. And I remember his 14-year-old kid that used to kick the ball around just in awe of the Warriors that he was watching at the time. And I thought, oh, he can kick like his dad. He can kick like his dad. And I honestly think that father-son combination I never thought would work. I didn't think it would work when Ivan went to the Panthers. But the Panthers, I know, have won a lot of games, but they've kept their head low. And there were some scandalous things going on in rugby league last year, and a lot of clubs were poking their ugly heads as to what was happening. And the Panthers were named within the realms of some of those clubs, and they handled it really well in-house. They said, listen to what Ivan has to say, and we could win you a premiership. And you throw in Coruscant there, who just runs at every prop that he plays against and makes them look so lazy because he's so quick. And then he knows when to pass and he knows when not to pass because he's so clever. I'm going to put my money on the Panthers to take out the premiership this year. I'm happy with the Panthers.
The Panthers. I mean, they'll be paying. I haven't even looked to see who's paying what before I place a bet. But I'm just looking at the best and worst final positions that the teams can finish in with one more game left in the regular season. And for the Warriors, Whanau, the best we can do is 10th now. Is that points differential that prevents us from being any higher then because the other two teams are already there? And the worst we could finish is 13th, which brings up the interesting point. We have talked about the top four. Who is getting the wooden spoon?
Not the Titans. I love the Titans lately. Their footy is great. I love watching.
Well, it's only between the Bulldogs and the Broncos.
Yeah, the Titans are looking to get ninth. How the hell?
Isn't that great that the Titans aren't there because they deserve not to be down there.
I've backed the Broncos in my tips a number of times this year, and they just have never looked like winning a game. You know what I mean? So they're playing North Queensland this weekend in another Queensland derby. And to be honest, I know it's at home. I still can't. I probably won't back them this week, and they'll win. You know what I mean? So
that's a tough one though, because you don't want to be playing against your neighbours, right? Like you don't when they know that they could send you to the wooden spoon.
Oh, look, I think it's going to be a hell of a game, but they haven't got the stock, mate. They've got a heap of young kids. They lose Fafita from the weekend. They've got no halfback or 5'8". Milford and Croft are out. Darius Boyd's playing his final game. They got reasons to win the game, but I don't think they got the stock to win it. I think North Queensland, with Tomalolo back, they got a player playing in his last game too. Cooper out on the left edge. They've got just as much reason to win it. I think they've got the experience to win it.
I think they look over there and they go, these Broncos who run this town, who run this state.
Wouldn't everyone love the Broncos to get the spoon?
Totally, and I think they're way more motivated to win this game than the Panthers are to beat the Bulldogs. Agree?
Well, Lavina said the Bulldogs win.
Yeah, you have done.
She said it on Sunday. She said the Bulldogs will beat the Panthers next week.
They've got the first place. They're all
paying
$9.
Get on there.
I did. I put it on there. I think they upset a lot of people, and the Panthers will rest a couple, and they're due a loss. Let's be honest. They'd prefer to lose then rather than against Parramatta the week after in a battle of the West. The Western boys. See what happens.
Yeah, or I mean, if you're a betting man, to say who finishes absolute last, are we all on the Broncos to be the wooden spooners?
I think the Broncos get the spoon.
Yeah, good.
I think the Broncos get the spoon. I think it's going to, I can't see the Bulldogs beating Penrith, but I hope you get your $9 worth.
Yeah. Sucked in Alan Langer. See you with your fat belly run out with the water.
Peter's just swinging for the fences. I love it. Must mean that the Warriors are out. So the Warriors do get to play their last game.
And wouldn't it be good for the Warriors to beat Manly? Because lots of people had Manly in the top 8 at the start of the year. I like the look of Manly. Manly will get in the top 8. I like the look of Manly. They'll get in the top 8. That'd be great to see the Warriors take them out without Roger this weekend. I'm going to be cheering.
I don't think they lose a hell of a lot putting Peter Huku back at fullback. He plays good footy back there.
He likes fullback. He actually loves playing at fullback.
So we look over the teams that have missed out on the 8, and we'll obviously do a debrief next week as to who's the biggest disappointment. But Broncos will be up there. The teams that haven't made it this year that people were putting in their 8. The Titans, I think, has surprised a lot of people. West Tigers. There was plenty of noise saying that they'd make the 8. Sea Eagles. Maybe it was just not plenty of noise. It was just Aish, but he was making lots of noise. The Sea Eagles, obviously one of them as well. Warriors at 12. I mean, we could finish 10th. It's a pretty tough season to look over for the Warriors. Dragons, Cowboys, Bulldogs, and Broncos. I mean, out of those teams that missed out, the most disappointing?
Manly.
Cowboys.
Cowboys.
Not for me. Not that I like the Cowboys, but I thought with Valentine Holmes and Jason Taumalolo, the $10 million man, that they would be able to get their head out of that. Jonathan Thurston has left us, and we're a different team. I thought that they might have snuck in to the top 8. I didn't think that the Broncos would have a good year. I honestly didn't, because I heard about how much dissension there was there in the ranks. So I'm surprised by the fact the Cowboys aren't there, and I'm just pleased with the way the Titans are tracking along. I think the Titans' recruitment policy has been great over the past half a decade. They've had a 10-year plan, and they're slowly climbing up like this, same as the Panthers have been doing. And they're playing really good football because their $1 million halfback has decided to play like a $1 million man, which is quite refreshing. Because for a while there, Ash Taylor, I was like, mate, get out of the game. You're annoying the hell out of me. But he's found his feet. He's found his feet playing good footy, and they're a great attacking side at the moment. The
Finding your
Titans.
feet at I'm just going to let you know, finding your feet at the end of the year when there's nothing to play for ain't worth $1 million.
They've had a go.
You know what I mean? Like pack your bags and get on that bus out of town, mate.
Oh, I love it. So moving forward, I just want to check now. This is the best time to do it. The purge valve. We use the show just to get out those feelings, and Lavina was going Hundies just before. But anything else anyone wants to talk about before we have a quick look at the matchups coming up this week?
Just real quickly, Josh Papali pulling someone's hair. Hello.
He frustrated.
$700 fine. Tohu Harris, was it?
Yeah. That's unfortunate. I think Roger's going to be up for Player of the Year again, but I think Tohu Harris has been the Player of the Year for me.
Same. I love him.
He's done a fantastic job going from edge to middle and holding the forward pack together.
Yeah.
I really haven't got a purge this week. I'm just, for me, it's been really interesting watching the full Gould phenomenon take seed over the last month here in New Zealand. I think
What's he been doing? Like, I think for us, a lot of just general league fans.
Mate, he's been a lot of
Blake.
talk and finding his feet and he's obviously, one thing we're not going to take from Full Gould is that he's got some pull in the game. 15 of those 17 players that run out for Penrith come from the academy that he set up down in West Sydney. He's got some ideas. I think the Whanua Blake one got me from left field. How quick that decision, on all accounts, was made to get him over here. That went from can't get a marquee player to one saying I want to leave the club and go to the Warriors. You know what I mean? And for me, that says a lot about what's happening around behind the scenes. So I'm just really interested in the conversation of Nathan Brown coming over here and spending Christmas with the team. That shows a bit of dedication. The big question remains is what Todd Payten has done for this team since Steve Kearney got the sack. Can Nathan Brown carry that on?
Yeah.
Because they, with the right signing, I think they're one signing away from being a top 8 team.
Should we be signing to support the spine? Should we be signing to support the front? Where should the
the evidence shows it. If you look at the top 5 teams, if you look at the bottom 8 teams, okay, you have a look at their hookers.
Yeah.
The garbage. You know what I mean? If you have a look at the top 5 teams, there's a reason why they're the top 5 sides. It's their spine.
Okay. Spend money on the spine, they say. Just like an apple a day keeps the doctor away.
I'll buy a really good hooker.
Well, I was thinking, would Harris Tavita be hooker? He's got a left foot.
Someone was saying to me he's not
smart,
creative enough to be out.
No, what a load of shit.
I
He's a smart footballer.
had to bite my lip because the person's bigger than me and knows more about league, and he's like, he's not creative enough to be able to drive that team around. You need to put him, you need to hide him somewhere else.
He's tough.
He's tough. He's young. His confidence will grow. He can kick.
And he can tackle.
He can tackle. How it just... Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay, so heading forward to this round 20, the final round before the lads get to jump on the plane and fly home. Is there any game in particular that stands out to you guys that says, got to?
Roosters are playing South, are they?
Yep, Rabbits, game? Roosters. That's on
Friday.
There's only one game.
Sydney Oats.
There's only one game. It's a Friday night game. It's the Broncos playing the Cowboys.
That's Thursday. Thanks, Tony.
Thursday night. Well, Thursday night.
I love how you came in and said it too so proudly. Look, right.
Yeah. And the Warriors beating Manly. I'm excited by that.
So we want to see the Broncos get nailed by the Cowboys and see them finish bottom of the table. Yep. We want to see the Knights get up over the Titans so that they at least can try and drop down and the Warriors can draw even more.
Knights
and
are
just
doing
quickly sad that Tim Glasby has retired from rugby league, and that's another. We talked last week about concussions and the litmus test. We
There's
talked
no
a lot
litmus
about
test.
that.
Yeah.
And I think just like player management and making sure we take care of our players. And he played 5 or 6 State of Origins, I think, and 130 games, whatever. But a good footballer, and his career's literally been enforced upon him. It's over. He's retiring now because of constant head injuries, and it's just sad.
And the scary thing about those injuries too was when he was describing it, he could say a month later, travelling on the bus with the lads to the game, he'd just get motion sickness. Like, that's what we're dealing with here, man. And God knows how much that's going to affect him heading forward into his latter years as well.
Yeah. So that might give
I have got the player. Remember,
some incentive
you did ask me about the player managers too, mate. I did do my homework.
Oh,
you
yes.
You just never ever came back to me on it.
There's not going to be a lot really before next week's anyway. I mean, other than previewing what's going to happen for the,
we'll do that one, eh?
Final 8, we'll touch on the rulings around the player managements and how to keep the NRL nice, safe, and clean. We've already touched.
It's easy. You say to the player managers, "You're not allowed in New Zealand." Okay, easy.
That's clubs.
Talk to Kempy.
No
Talk
clubs.
to Kempy and he'll let you know who's good or
I'll be
bad.
the gatekeeper.
You just talk to Kempy.
Just talk to Kempe. All right, team.
Easy.
Enjoy the final round of the NRL regular season. Next week we will be back. We will be talking about the final 8, the top 8, who plays whom, what's going to happen. We already know Kempy's already skipped it, and he'll also tell us how to keep the games. Player managers, and how to keep it all clean. Make sure these players are looked after well into their later on in their careers. Thank you so much, Tony. Thank you so much, Lavina. Thank you guys for listening and watching. We'll see you next week. Ka kite anō.
Ka kite anō.